Dr. Maya Bennett, a dedicated black pediatrician and loving mother, sets out on a simple outing with her young daughter, Zoe. But their peaceful day is shattered when a routine traffic stop escalates into an unjust confrontation. Faced with an officer's unwarranted demands and her daughter's rising fear, Maya must summon all her strength to navigate the moment. What begins as a harrowing encounter leads to a larger fight for justice and accountability, as Maya's story sparks a movement within her community. With the unexpected support of strangers and allies, Maya learns to balance fear with courage, turning her personal struggle into a powerful voice for change. But will her efforts bring about the justice she seeks? Dr. Maya Bennett woke to the soft hum of sunlight filtering through her bedroom curtains. The warmth of the morning light kissed her skin, casting a golden glow on the neatly arranged room. Maya's sanctuary was modest, yet welcoming. The walls bore a calming shade of lavender, accented with framed pictures of her 7-year-old daughter, Zoe, whose infectious smile was the centerpiece of Maya's life. The scent of fresh linen lingered in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of coffee from the kitchen below. Today was a rare day off, and Maya was determined to make it memorable. For the past 6 years, she had balanced her role as a pediatrician at a bustling urban hospital with the endless duties of single motherhood. It was a delicate dance of long shifts, late-night homework sessions, and stolen moments of rest. Despite the chaos, Maya found purpose in her work and joy in her daughter's laughter. Zoe bounded into the room, her curls wild and untamed, her small arms clutching her favorite teddy bear. "Good morning, Mommy," she chirped, climbing onto the bed with an enthusiasm that made Maya smile. "Good morning, my love," Maya replied, pulling Zoe into a warm embrace. "Are you ready for our big day at the park?" Zoe's eyes lit up. "Yes, I packed my crayons and sketch pad. I want to draw the ducks by the pond." Maya chuckled, marveling at Zoe's boundless creativity. Her daughter's love for art was a bright spot in their lives, a reminder that beauty could be found even in the simplest moments. In the kitchen, Maya prepared breakfast while Zoe chattered about her plans for the day. The small space was tidy, with white cabinets and a refrigerator adorned with Zoe's drawings. It was not extravagant, but it was home. The smell of pancakes filled the air as Maya set the table with care, savoring this quiet time with her daughter. As they ate, Maya's thoughts drifted. Life had not been easy, but she had worked hard to create stability for Zoe. Losing her husband James to a sudden illness 5 years ago had been a turning point. Grief had threatened to consume her, but Zoe's needs had kept her grounded. Maya had pushed through medical school, juggling exams and residency, while ensuring Zoe never felt the absence of love. Today was about more than just a trip to the park. It was about carving out time to nurture their bond, to remind Zoe that no matter how busy life became, she was Maya's priority. By mid-morning, they were on the road. The drive to the park was short but scenic, with tree-lined streets giving way to open fields. Maya hummed softly to the music playing from the car radio, while Zoe sang along in the back seat. The joy in her daughter's voice made Maya's heart swell. The park was a special place for them, a sanctuary where Zoe could explore and Maya could unwind. They had visited countless times, feeding ducks, flying kites, and lying on the grass to watch the clouds. It was their happy place. As they approached a quiet intersection, Maya noticed the unmistakable flash of red and blue lights in her rearview mirror. Her stomach tightened as she pulled to the side of the road. She glanced at Zoe, who had stopped singing, her face a picture of confusion. "Mommy, what's happening?" Zoe asked, clutching her teddy bear tighter. "It's okay, sweetie," Maya said, forcing a calm she did not entirely feel. "The police just need to talk to me. Stay calm, all right?" The officer approached the car, his face stern. Maya rolled down her window, greeting him with a polite smile. "Good morning, officer." Is there a problem? You were driving a little slow back there, he said, his tone flat. Can I see your license and registration? Maya's brow furrowed. She had not been speeding or doing anything illegal. Nevertheless, she reached for her purse, retrieving her documents. Here you go, she said, handing them over. The officer studied her license, his gaze lingering a moment longer than necessary. Step out of the car, ma'am. Maya blinked, taken aback. Is there a reason, officer? My daughter is in the car and… Step out of the car, he repeated, more firmly this time. Zoe's small voice broke through the tension. Mommy, are you in trouble? Maya turned to her daughter, her heart aching at the fear in Zoe's eyes. No, sweetie, everything's fine. Just stay in your seat, okay? As Maya opened the car door and stepped out, she felt the weight of the officer's scrutiny. Her mind raced with questions. Why had he stopped her? Was it her car? Her appearance? The thought stung, but it was not unfamiliar. As a black woman, Maya had experienced moments like this before, moments that left her questioning her place in the world. I need to check your vehicle, the officer said, his tone clipped. Of course, Maya replied, her voice steady despite the unease coiling in her chest. She knew better than to argue, especially with Zoe watching. As the officer circled the car, Maya stood by the roadside, the cool wind biting at her skin. She glanced at Zoe, who waved at her through the window, her face pressed against the glass. Maya smiled faintly, determined to keep her daughter calm. Minutes passed before the officer returned, his expression unreadable. He handed back her license and registration without explanation. You're free to go, he said, turning on his heel and walking away. Maya exhaled a breath she had not realized she was holding. Climbing back into the car, she forced a smile for Zoe's sake. See? Nothing to worry about. Zoe nodded, though her small hand clung to Maya's sleeve as they resumed their journey. The incident lingered in Maya's mind as they arrived at the park. It was a reminder of the fragility of safety, the ever-present shadow of prejudice. But as she watched Zoe run ahead, her laughter ringing out like music, Maya pushed the thoughts aside. This was their day, and she would not let anything ruin it. They spread out a blanket under a sprawling oak tree, the sun dappling the ground in golden patches. Zoe pulled out her sketch pad, her tongue poking out in concentration as she began to draw. Maya leaned back, watching her daughter with a mixture of pride and wonder. "Mommy, look!" Zoe exclaimed, holding up her drawing of a duck waddling by the pond. "It's beautiful," Maya said, pulling Zoe into a hug. "You're so talented." Zoe beamed, her earlier fear forgotten. Maya stroked her daughter's curls, savoring the simplicity of the moment. As the afternoon wore on, Maya's thoughts returned to the encounter with the officer. She knew she could not ignore it, not when so many others had faced similar experiences. But for now, she focused on Zoe, on the sound of her laughter and the joy in her eyes. Later that evening, as they returned home, Maya tucked Zoe into bed, kissing her forehead. "Good night, my little artist." "Good night, Mommy," Zoe murmured, already drifting off. In the quiet of her room, Maya sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. The day had been a reminder of the challenges she faced, but it had also reaffirmed her resolve. She thought of Zoe, her strength, and her reason to keep going. Maya took a deep breath, a sense of purpose settling over her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them with grace, resilience, and the unwavering love of her daughter. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the small, tidy kitchen as Maya prepared Zoe's breakfast. The scent of scrambled eggs and toast filled the air, a comforting routine that grounded them both. Zoe, still in her pajamas, sat at the table, swinging her legs as she colored a new sketch. Her crayon strokes were bold, capturing the energy and vibrancy of a child's imagination. "What are you drawing today, sweetheart?" Maya asked as she poured orange juice into Zoe's favorite cup. "A superhero," Zoe replied proudly, holding up her paper. She's called Mighty Maya, like you, Mommy. She's brave, and she helps people. Maya paused, her heart swelling at her daughter's words. Mighty Maya, huh? I think she's amazing, she said with a smile, brushing a curl from Zoe's forehead. Zoe grinned. She's just like you, Mommy. The warmth of that moment lingered with Maya as she got Zoe ready for school. But beneath her smile, remnants of yesterday's encounter with the officer nagged at her. It was not the first time she had felt scrutinized, judged, or dismissed. She had learned to navigate these moments with composure, yet each one left its mark. After dropping Zoe off at school, Maya drove to work. The streets were alive with the morning bustle, honking horns, hurried footsteps, and the chatter of commuters. At the hospital, she was greeted by her colleagues, her mind quickly consumed by her patients. Her morning passed in a blur of appointments, children with fevers, worried parents, and charts to review. Maya's dedication was evident in every interaction. She crouched to meet a shy 5-year-old at eye level, praised an anxious mother for her patience, and gently reassured a tearful toddler with a bright smile. But when lunchtime came, Maya found herself alone in the break room, staring at her phone. The memory of the police officer's tone and his dismissive glare crept back into her thoughts. She shook her head, trying to push it aside. "Can't let this ruin my day," she muttered to herself. Still, she could not deny the frustration simmering beneath the surface. That evening, Maya picked Zoe up from school. Zoe was brimming with excitement, clutching a crayon drawing of the superhero she had worked on during class. "Mommy, look, I finished Mighty Maya," Zoe exclaimed, holding up the paper. Maya admired the drawing, a proud smile spreading across her face. "It's perfect, Zoe. You're such a talented artist." "Thanks, Mommy," Zoe said, bouncing into the back seat of the car. As they drove home, Maya listened to Zoe chatter about her day. The sound of her daughter's voice was soothing, a reminder of what truly mattered. They were only a few blocks from home when it happened. The familiar flash of red and blue lights appeared in the rearview mirror, accompanied by the blip of a siren. Maya's heart sank. "Mommy, is it the police again?" Zoe asked, her voice small. Maya inhaled deeply, forcing calm into her voice. "Yes, baby, but it's okay. Just stay in your seat, all right?" Zoe nodded, clutching her teddy bear tightly. Maya pulled over, her hands steady, as she placed them on the steering wheel. The officer approached the car, his footsteps measured and deliberate. "Good evening, ma'am," he said. His voice was neutral, but his expression was unreadable. "Good evening, officer," Maya replied evenly. "Is there a problem?" "Your taillight is out," he said. Maya frowned. She had not noticed any issues with her taillights earlier. "I wasn't aware of that," she said. "Thank you for letting me know." The officer nodded but lingered. "Can I see your license and registration?" "Of course," Maya said, reaching for her glove compartment. She moved carefully, aware of how even the smallest movement might be misinterpreted. As she handed over her documents, Zoe's voice broke through the silence. "Mommy, are we going to be late for dinner?" Maya turned to her daughter with a reassuring smile. "No, sweetheart, we'll be home soon." But she could feel the officer's gaze fixed on her. After reviewing her documents, the officer stepped back, speaking into his radio. Maya waited, her pulse quickening. The seconds stretched into minutes, the silence in the car growing heavier. When the officer returned, his expression was harder. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am," he said. Maya's stomach tightened. "Officer, I have my daughter in the car. Is this really necessary?" "Yes," he said firmly. Maya hesitated, glancing at Zoe, who looked up at her with wide, worried eyes. "Mommy, what's happening?" Maya leaned close, her voice soft. "Everything's fine, Zoe. Just stay here, okay?" With that, she opened the car door and stepped out, the cool evening air brushing against her skin. Standing by the roadside, Maya faced the officer. "What seems to be the problem?" she asked, her tone calm but firm. "Routine inspection," he said curtly. Maya's unease grew. She had dealt with similar situations before, but this felt different. The officer's demeanor was tense, almost confrontational. "Officer, I've complied with your requests," Maya said. "I'm just trying to get home with my daughter." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Ma'am, I need you to stay quiet and let me do my job." Maya's patience frayed, but she kept her composure. She thought of Zoe, who was watching from the car, and swallowed her frustration. Just as the tension reached its peak, a voice interrupted. "Excuse me, officer," a woman said, stepping onto the scene. Maya turned to see a stranger, Emma, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm presence. She was walking her dog and had stopped when she noticed the interaction. "Is there a problem here?" Emma asked, her tone polite but firm. "This is official business," the officer said, his irritation evident. "I understand," Emma replied, "but I couldn't help noticing that this lady has a child in the car. I hope this doesn't take much longer." Maya's chest tightened with gratitude for the stranger's intervention. The officer glanced between them, his stance shifting. After a tense pause, he handed Maya's documents back. "You're free to go," he said, his tone clipped. As Maya got back into the car, she glanced at Emma, who offered a small smile and a wave before walking away. "Thank you," Maya mouthed, her heart full of relief. Driving away, Maya glanced at Zoe in the rearview mirror. "See, sweetie, everything's okay." Zoe nodded, her grip on her teddy bear loosening. "Mommy, was that lady a superhero too?" Maya smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "She was today, Zoe. She was today." As they drove home, Maya thought about Emma's unexpected kindness. It was a small act, but it had made a world of difference. In that moment, Maya realized that even in the face of injustice, there were allies, strangers willing to stand up for what was right. She made a silent promise to herself and to Zoe. She would not let this incident fade into memory. It was time to act, not just for her own sake, but for the future Zoe deserved. Maya could not shake the unease that followed her home that evening. After dinner, she sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea as Zoe worked on another drawing nearby. The hum of their small apartment, with its familiar creaks and comforting warmth, felt slightly off tonight. Emma's unexpected kindness had calmed her earlier, but the encounter with the officer lingered, like a shadow she could not quite escape. "Mommy, can I show you something?" Zoe asked, breaking into her thoughts. Maya looked up and smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. What is it?" Zoe slid a piece of paper across the table. It was another drawing of Mighty Maya, but this time, her superhero mom stood beside a woman with short hair and glasses. A small dog sat at the woman's feet. "That's the lady who helped us," Zoe explained, pointing to the second figure. "She was brave, like you." Maya felt her chest tighten. "That's a wonderful drawing, Zoe. You have such a good memory." "Do you think we'll see her again?" Zoe asked, her voice tinged with hope. "Maybe," Maya said softly, though she was not sure, "but we can remember her kindness, even if we don't." Zoe nodded and returned to her crayons, content for the moment. Maya stared at the drawing, her mind swirling with thoughts. The encounter had not just been about one officer's unnecessary demands. It had been a reminder of something larger, something systemic. She knew she could not let it pass without action. The next day, Maya dropped Zoe off at school before heading to a local auto shop to check her taillight. The mechanic, a friendly older man named Charlie, examined the car and returned shaking his head. "There's nothing wrong with your taillight," he said. "It's working perfectly." Maya frowned. "Are you sure?" "Positive," Charlie said. "You were probably pulled over for another reason." Maya clenched her jaw, a knot forming in her stomach. She thanked Charlie and drove away, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her thoughts were a mix of anger and exhaustion. She had complied with every demand, only to realize that the reason for the stop had likely been a lie. Later that day, Maya found herself in the hospital cafeteria during her lunch break, scrolling through articles on her phone. Her search history was now filled with phrases like unjust traffic stops and police bias. The stories she read echoed her own experience, a chorus of frustration and helplessness. "Maya," a familiar voice said, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Dr. Elena Torres, one of her colleagues and closest friends. Elena was a surgeon with a no-nonsense attitude, but her warmth and humor made her a constant source of support. "Hey, Elena," Maya said, forcing a smile. "You've got that look," Elena said, sliding into the seat across from her. "What's going on?" Maya hesitated before recounting the events of the last 2 days. Elena listened intently, her expression growing darker with each detail. "That's unacceptable," Elena said firmly. "Are you going to file a complaint?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "What if it makes things worse? What if they come after me?" Elena leaned forward, her voice softening. "I get it, Maya. It's terrifying to stand up to something like this, but you don't have to do it alone. There are people who can help, lawyers, advocates. You can't let this go." Maya nodded slowly, though the weight of her fear was hard to shake. She had always been the one to avoid conflict, to quietly work hard and prove herself in a world that often doubted her. But this was different. This time, it was not just about her. That evening, Maya picked Zoe up from school and decided to take her to the park. She needed the fresh air, the sight of her daughter's joy. As they spread out their blanket under their favorite oak tree, Maya felt a sense of calm return. Zoe immediately started drawing, her crayons scattered around her like a rainbow. Maya watched her, the tension in her chest loosening with each of Zoe's giggles, but the calm was short-lived. "Mommy, look," Zoe said, pointing toward the path. Maya turned to see Emma approaching, her small dog trotting beside her. Emma spotted them and waved, her smile warm and genuine. "Hi there," Emma said as she reached them. "I didn't expect to see you here." Maya stood, surprised but glad to see the kind stranger again. "Emma, thank you so much for what you did yesterday. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in." Emma waved her hand dismissively. "It was nothing. I just couldn't stand by and watch." "No," Maya said firmly. "It wasn't nothing. You stood up for me when you didn't have to. That means more than I can say." Emma smiled, her gaze softening. "I'm glad I could help. How are you feeling now?" Maya hesitated, the vulnerability of her answer weighing on her. "Honestly, angry, confused? I don't know what to do." Emma nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know it's not easy, but you have a voice, Maya, and your voice matters. Have you thought about talking to someone, an advocate or an attorney?" Maya sighed. "I'm not sure where to start." "Well," Emma said, pulling out a small card from her bag, "I know someone who might be able to help. She's a lawyer who works with people in situations like yours. I think she'd want to hear your story." Maya took the card, her fingers brushing the textured paper. The name Vanessa Green was printed in bold letters, followed by contact information. "Thank you," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. Emma placed a hand on her arm. "You're not alone, Maya. Don't forget that." That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Maya sat at the kitchen table with the card in her hand. She stared at it for a long time, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. Filing a complaint, seeking legal help, it all felt overwhelming. But as she looked at Zoe's drawings pinned to the fridge, she thought about the future her daughter deserved. She could not let fear hold her back. With a deep breath, Maya picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. The call to Vanessa Green had been brief but promising. Maya explained the traffic stop, her calm voice belying the storm of emotions beneath. Vanessa listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and encouraging Maya to meet her in person. The next day, with Zoe at school, Maya found herself walking into Vanessa's office, a small, welcoming space tucked into a nondescript downtown building. Vanessa was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her early 40s, with a warm demeanor that put Maya at ease almost immediately. She wore her natural curls in a tidy bun and had a calm confidence that radiated from her every movement. "Dr. Bennett," Vanessa greeted, standing to shake Maya's hand. "Thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." Maya settled into the chair across from her, her hands gripping her purse tightly. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." "Of course," Vanessa said, her tone reassuring. "Emma told me a little about what happened. I want to help. Why don't you start from the beginning?" Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. She recounted the events in detail, the flashing lights, the officer's demands, Zoe's fear, and Emma's intervention. As she spoke, Vanessa took notes, her expression focused but empathetic. When Maya finished, she leaned back in her chair, the words having drained her of energy. Vanessa set down her pen. "First, I want to say I'm sorry you went through this. What you experienced was wrong, and it's important that we address it. Have you considered filing a formal complaint against the officer?" "I've thought about it," Maya admitted. "But I'm scared. What if it backfires? What if they come after me or worse, my daughter?" Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes steady. "That fear is valid, Maya, but you're not alone in this. I'll be with you every step of the way. And remember, filing a complaint isn't just about you. It's about holding people accountable, so this doesn't happen to someone else." Maya considered Vanessa's words. She thought about Zoe, her innocent questions about the world, her superhero drawings. What kind of example would Maya set if she stayed silent? "I'll do it," she said finally, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "I want to file the complaint." Vanessa smiled, her expression both kind and resolute. "Good. We'll get started right away." The drive home felt lighter, as if some unseen weight had lifted from Maya's shoulders. Filing the complaint would not erase what had happened, but it was a step forward. When she picked Zoe up from school, her daughter ran to the car with her usual enthusiasm. "Mommy, guess what?" "What's that, sweetheart?" Maya asked, smiling as Zoe climbed into her seat. "We're learning about heroes in class," Zoe said, her curls bouncing as she spoke. "And I told my teacher that you're my hero." Maya's chest tightened. She reached back to squeeze Zoe's hand. "Thank you, baby. That means everything to me." That evening, they returned to the park for a bit of fresh air. The late afternoon sun bathed the trees in a golden glow, and the pond rippled gently in the breeze. Zoe darted ahead with her sketch pad, eager to capture the scene. Maya sat on the blanket, watching her daughter with a mix of pride and worry. Filing the complaint felt like the right decision, but she knew it was just the beginning. She would have to navigate the process carefully, balancing her role as a mother with her newfound fight for justice. "Mommy, look!" Zoe called, holding up her drawing. Maya smiled. "It's beautiful, Zoe. You're so talented." Zoe grinned, running back to the blanket to sit beside her mother. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Maya said. "Why was the policeman so mean to you?" Zoe asked, her voice quiet. Maya froze. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything Zoe could not yet understand. She took a deep breath, pulling Zoe into her lap. "Sometimes people make mistakes," Maya said carefully, "and sometimes those mistakes hurt other people. But we have to stand up for ourselves and show them that everyone deserves kindness and respect." Zoe nodded, though her brow furrowed in thought. "Is that why you're so brave?" Maya kissed the top of her daughter's head. "I'm brave because of you, Zoe. You make me want to be better every day." The peaceful moment was interrupted by a sudden commotion nearby. A young boy, no older than 5, had fallen near the pond, his cries echoing across the park. His mother rushed to his side, panic etched across her face. Without hesitation, Maya stood and hurried over. "I'm a doctor. Let me help," she said, kneeling beside the boy. The mother looked up, her relief palpable. "Thank you. He tripped, and I think he hurt his ankle." Maya examined the boy gently, her voice soothing as she asked him questions. Within minutes, she determined that his injury was minor. She helped him to his feet, reassuring both him and his mother. "Thank you so much," the mother said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "It's no trouble," Maya replied, her smile warm. As Maya returned to the blanket, Zoe looked up at her with wide eyes. "You really are a hero, Mommy," she said. Maya laughed softly, pulling Zoe into a hug. "I just did what anyone would do, sweetheart." But as they packed up their things and headed home, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had spent her life helping others, whether as a doctor or a mother. Now, she would channel that same determination into standing up for herself and her daughter. She glanced at Zoe in the rearview mirror, her little superhero. Maya knew the road ahead would not be easy, but she also knew she was not walking it alone. The morning after the park incident, Maya sat at her kitchen table, sipping her coffee and staring at the complaint form Vanessa had sent her. The words on the screen felt heavy. Filing the complaint was the first step, but it brought an uncomfortable mix of determination and vulnerability. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. A message from Vanessa popped up. "I'm here if you need help with the details. Just call." Maya smiled faintly. Vanessa's support had been invaluable, but the weight of this decision still rested squarely on her shoulders. She closed her laptop and stood, deciding to take Zoe out for breakfast before dropping her off at school. At the diner, Zoe swung her legs beneath the table, her small hands gripping a glass of orange juice. "Mommy, can we go to the park again after school?" she asked. Maya reached across the table to wipe a crumb from Zoe's cheek. "We'll see, sweetie. Mommy has a lot to do today." Zoe pouted for a moment, before her attention shifted to her pancake, the syrup drizzling over its edges. Maya watched her daughter with a mix of pride and guilt. She hated the way her worries often intruded on these moments. As they left the diner, Maya noticed Emma walking her dog on the opposite sidewalk. Emma waved, her face lighting up as she crossed the street toward them. "Maya, good to see you," Emma said warmly. "You too," Maya replied. "This is my daughter, Zoe." Emma crouched slightly, smiling at Zoe. "Hi, Zoe. I heard you're quite the artist." Zoe beamed. "I draw superheroes. Mommy says I'm really good." "She is," Maya added, her voice filled with affection. Emma straightened and turned to Maya, her tone softening. "How are you holding up? Did you speak to Vanessa?" Maya nodded. "I did. She's been great. I'm working on the complaint now." Emma's expression grew serious. "Good. I'm glad you're taking this step, Maya. It's not easy, but it's important." Zoe tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Is Miss Emma a superhero too?" Emma laughed, a warm sound that made Maya's chest tighten with gratitude. "No, Zoe. I'm just someone who believes in helping when I can." "You're definitely a hero to us," Maya said quietly, her eyes meeting Emma's. Emma reached out, resting a hand on Maya's arm. "If you ever need anything at all, you call me, okay?" "I will," Maya promised. That afternoon, after dropping Zoe off at school, Maya returned to her laptop. She opened the complaint form again, this time with a clearer sense of purpose. The words began to flow, each sentence a reflection of her resolve. When she finished, she saved the document and emailed it to Vanessa with a brief message. "It's done. Thank you for everything." Later that evening, Maya picked Zoe up from school. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the city streets. Zoe chatted about her day, her voice filled with excitement about an art project her class had started. "Can we go to the park now, Mommy?" Zoe asked as they pulled into their driveway. Maya hesitated. She was tired. and the thought of venturing out again felt daunting. But when she looked at Zoe's hopeful face, she could not say no. "Okay," Maya said, smiling. "Let's grab your sketch pad." The park was quieter than usual, the cool evening air carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers. Maya spread out their blanket beneath the familiar oak tree, and Zoe immediately began to draw. Maya leaned back, letting the tension of the day melt away as she watched her daughter. The park had always been a refuge for them, a place to escape the noise of the world. But her peace was interrupted by a familiar voice. "Maya!" She turned to see Emma approaching, her dog trotting alongside her. "Hi, Emma," Maya said, surprised. "Twice in one day?" Emma laughed, sitting on the edge of the blanket. "I like this park too. Thought I'd get one last walk in before it gets dark." Zoe looked up from her sketch pad. "Miss Emma, do you want to see my drawing?" "I'd love to," Emma said, leaning in as Zoe held up her latest creation. "It's us," Zoe said proudly. "You, me, Mommy, and the ducks." Emma smiled. "That's beautiful, Zoe. You have a real gift." Maya watched the interaction with a sense of gratitude. Emma's presence had been a balm to her frayed nerves, a reminder that not all strangers were indifferent. As the evening wore on, Maya shared more of her worries with Emma, how the complaint process was daunting, how she feared for Zoe's safety, and how she struggled with the weight of it all. "You're stronger than you think, Maya," Emma said, "and you're not alone. Vanessa, me, and even Zoe, we're all here for you." Maya nodded, her chest tightening with emotion. "Thank you, Emma. That means so much." As they packed up to leave, Emma handed Maya a slip of paper. "This is my number. Call me any time, okay?" Maya took the paper, her eyes glistening. "I will. Thank you." That night, as Maya tucked Zoe into bed, she felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but the kindness of people like Emma and Vanessa reminded her that she did not have to walk it alone. In her room, Maya sat at her desk, staring at the copy of the complaint form she had submitted. She traced the edges of the paper, her mind racing with thoughts of what might come next. But as she glanced at Zoe's drawing on the fridge, a vibrant depiction of their little family and Emma under the oak tree, Maya felt a sense of calm. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage. For Zoe, for herself, and for everyone who needed someone to stand up and say, "Enough." A week passed after Maya filed the formal complaint, and each day seemed longer than the last. She had no illusions about the process. Vanessa had warned her it could take months for an investigation to yield any action, if it ever did. But waiting still felt like holding her breath underwater, unsure when or if she could rise for air. Zoe, unaware of the complexities weighing on her mother, carried on with her usual energy. Maya drew strength from her daughter's joy, even as she fought back anxiety. She filled their days with routine school drop-offs, late-night dinners, and park visits to remind herself of what she was fighting for. One evening, Maya was preparing dinner when her phone buzzed. It was Vanessa. "Good evening, Maya," Vanessa said, her voice steady as always. "I have some news about your complaint." Maya wiped her hands on a towel, gripping the phone tightly. "What is it?" "The department has acknowledged receipt, and the officer in question has been notified," Vanessa said. "They've placed him on administrative leave pending an internal review." Maya leaned against the counter, relief mixing with apprehension. "Does that mean they're taking it seriously?" "It's a step in the right direction," Vanessa said cautiously, "but I don't want to give you false hope. These reviews often favor the officers. It's important to stay grounded and prepared for any outcome." Maya nodded, though Vanessa couldn't see her. "Thank you for letting me know." "Of course, and remember, I'm here if you have questions or need to talk." Maya hung up, staring at the countertop. It was progress, but it felt tenuous. She couldn't shake the fear that nothing would change, that her efforts would be dismissed. That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Maya sat in the living room with her laptop. She couldn't sleep, her mind buzzing with thoughts. Against her better judgment, she began scrolling through articles and comment sections about similar cases. Her heart sank at the patterns she saw. Officers cleared of wrongdoing, victims discredited, communities divided. The weight of it pressed down on her until she could barely breathe. Maya closed her laptop and buried her face in her hands. A soft knock at the door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone. She stood cautiously, peering through the peephole. To her surprise, it was Emma. Maya opened the door, relief washing over her. "Emma, what are you doing here?" Maya asked, stepping aside to let her in. "I was walking my dog and saw your light on," Emma said, holding up a leash. Her dog, Charlie, wagged his tail excitedly. "Thought I'd check on you." Maya offered a tired smile. "You have impeccable timing." Emma set the leash down and followed Maya to the kitchen, where they sat with steaming cups of tea. Maya recounted Vanessa's update and the storm of emotions it had unleashed. Emma listened intently, her brow furrowed. "Maya, I know this is exhausting, but you're doing the right thing. You're standing up not just for yourself, but for others who might not have your strength." "I'm not sure how strong I am," Maya admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Some days, I feel like giving up." Emma reached across the table, squeezing Maya's hand. "You're stronger than you think, and you're not alone in this." The next morning, Maya felt slightly lighter. Emma's presence had reminded her of the network of support she was building, Vanessa's expertise, Zoe's innocence, Emma's unwavering kindness. She wasn't fighting this battle in isolation. At the hospital, she found herself working with renewed focus. The energy she poured into her patients gave her a sense of purpose beyond her personal struggles. She crouched beside a nervous 8-year-old with a broken arm, distracting him with jokes while she prepared his cast. His laughter lifted her spirits in a way she hadn't expected. Later, as she walked through the hallway, she overheard 2 nurses discussing her. "Dr. Bennett's amazing," one of them said. "I don't know how she does it always calm, always kind. She's been through so much, but you'd never know." Maya paused, her heart swelling. It wasn't the acknowledgement she sought, but it reminded her that her work mattered. She was making a difference, even in small ways. That evening, as she picked up Zoe from school, her daughter's teacher, Ms. Harper, stopped her. "Dr. Bennett, could I speak with you for a moment?" Ms. Harper asked, her tone warm. "Of course," Maya said, glancing at Zoe, who was happily chatting with a friend. "I just wanted to tell you how much Zoe looks up to you," Ms. Harper said. "We've been talking about role models in class, and she keeps saying, 'My mommy is my superhero.'" Maya's throat tightened. "Thank you for telling me that," she said, her voice soft. "She's lucky to have you," Ms. Harper added, "and I have no doubt you're setting an incredible example for her." As Maya walked back to the car with Zoe, Ms. Harper's words echoed in her mind. She thought of Zoe's sketches, her bright smile, and her endless curiosity. Everything Maya did, every long shift, every hard decision, was for her daughter. That night, as Zoe worked on a new drawing, Maya sat with her, sipping tea. "What are you working on now, sweetheart?" Maya asked. Zoe grinned. "It's a surprise. You'll see when it's done." Maya chuckled, ruffling Zoe's curls. She let her daughter's joy carry her through the evening, a small but vital reprieve from her worries. When Maya checked her email later, she found a response from Vanessa. The attorney had forwarded her a supportive message from a community group that advocated for police accountability. The group wanted to meet with Maya to discuss her case and how they could amplify her voice. Maya hesitated. She wasn't sure she was ready to step into the public eye. But as she reread the email, she realized that this wasn't just about her anymore. By sharing her story, she could be part of something bigger. Taking a deep breath, she replied, "I'd be happy to meet." The days ahead would be uncertain, but Maya was beginning to see the power of collective action. She thought of Vanessa, Emma, Zoe, and the growing circle of people who believed in her. With their support, she felt ready to take the next step. The road was long, but she was not walking it alone. The following week, Maya found herself standing in front of a modest brick building that housed the local community advocacy group. The air was crisp, and the faint sound of traffic hummed in the background. Vanessa had arranged for this meeting, but Maya's nerves prickled with doubt. Would they understand her hesitation? Could they really help? She smoothed her blazer, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The interior of the building was warm and inviting, with walls adorned with photos of past community events and inspirational quotes. A receptionist greeted Maya and led her to a small conference room. Inside, a group of people sat around a table, men and women of various ages and backgrounds. One of them, a woman with short-cropped hair and a kind smile, stood and extended her hand. "Dr. Bennett, thank you for coming. I'm Angela Morris, the director of the group," she said. Maya shook her hand, appreciating the warmth in her tone. "Thank you for inviting me. I wasn't sure what to expect." "Neither were we," Angela admitted with a laugh. "But Vanessa spoke highly of you, and we wanted to hear your story." Maya recounted her experience in detail: the traffic stop, the officer's demeanor, and the lingering fear that had followed her. The group listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of empathy and quiet outrage. When she finished, Angela leaned forward, her eyes steady. "Maya, your story isn't just powerful, it's necessary," Angela said. "Too many people experience what you did, but stay silent out of fear. By speaking out, you're giving a voice to those who feel voiceless." Maya shifted in her seat. "I don't know if I'm the right person for that. I'm just trying to protect my daughter and do what's right." "That's exactly why you're the right person," Angela replied. "Your story is about more than injustice. It's about resilience, love, and the determination to create a better world for your daughter and others like her." The room was quiet for a moment, the weight of Angela's words settling over Maya. She glanced at Vanessa, who gave her an encouraging nod. "What can I do?" Maya asked finally. Angela's smile widened. "Join us. Share your story at our next community forum. Help us raise awareness and call for change." Maya hesitated. The thought of standing in front of a crowd, bearing her vulnerability, made her stomach churn. But as she thought of Zoe, her wide eyes, her superhero drawings, she knew she couldn't say no. "I'll do it," Maya said, her voice steady. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Maya worked with Angela and Vanessa to shape her message, balancing her role as a mother with her newfound position as an advocate. Zoe was curious about the late-night meetings and phone calls. "Mommy, what are you doing?" she asked one evening as Maya reviewed her notes at the kitchen table. "I'm helping people understand why it's important to be kind and fair," Maya explained, choosing her words carefully. "Like a superhero?" Zoe asked, her eyes lighting up. Maya smiled, pulling Zoe into her lap. "Something like that," Zoe giggled. "You're going to be the best superhero ever." Maya kissed her forehead, her heart swelling with love. The night of the forum arrived, and Maya stood backstage at the community center, her hands trembling slightly. The auditorium was filled with people, friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had heard about her story. Angela had told her the turnout was larger than expected, a sign that her message was already resonating. "Maya," Vanessa said softly, touching her arm. "You've got this. Just speak from the heart." Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. As Angela introduced her to the audience, the sound of applause filled the room. Maya stepped onto the stage, her nerves momentarily overwhelming. But then she saw Zoe sitting in the front row, her smile bright and encouraging. Maya gripped the microphone, her voice trembling slightly as she began. "Good evening. My name is Dr. Maya Bennett, and I'm here to share my story not because it's unique, but because it's far too common. She recounted the events of the traffic stop, weaving in moments of vulnerability and strength. She spoke of Zoe, her fear, and her hope for a better future. The audience listened intently, their expressions a mixture of anger and compassion. "I didn't ask to be in this position," Maya said, her voice growing steadier. "But I realize that staying silent only allows the cycle to continue. I'm here because I believe we can do better, because we must do better." When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Maya exhaled, relief washing over her. She had done it. After the forum, people approached Maya, thanking her for her courage. Some shared their own experiences, while others offered their support. Maya felt overwhelmed but deeply grateful. Angela pulled her aside, her eyes shining with pride. "You were incredible, Maya. This is just the beginning." Maya nodded, her chest filled with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt before. That night, as she tucked Zoe into bed, her daughter looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mommy, are you going to save the world now?" Maya laughed softly. "Not the whole world, Zoe, but maybe I can help make it a little better." Zoe snuggled into her blanket, a content smile on her face. "I think you're already doing it." Maya sat beside her for a while, watching her daughter drift off to sleep. She thought about the journey ahead, the challenges, the victories, and the people who had joined her along the way. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a deep sense of hope. She wasn't alone in this fight, and she knew that together they could create change. The morning after the forum, Maya woke to an inbox flooded with emails and messages. Many were from people who had attended the event, thanking her for sharing her story. Others came from strangers who had seen clips of her speech online. Angela had mentioned that the forum would be recorded, but Maya hadn't expected the video to spread so quickly. She scrolled through the messages, her emotions a mix of gratitude and disbelief. One stood out: a letter from a young woman named Rachel. "Dr. Bennett, thank you for your bravery. I've experienced something similar, but I've always been too scared to speak out. Watching you gave me the courage to finally tell my story. Please keep fighting. You're inspiring more people than you realize." Maya sat back in her chair, the weight of Rachel's words settling over her. She had stepped into this fight for Zoe, but now she understood that her voice carried farther than she had imagined. Later that day, Maya met Vanessa and Angela at the community center to plan their next steps. The success of the forum had energized the group, but they knew this was just the beginning. "We've received dozens of inquiries from people wanting to get involved," Angela said, her eyes alight with determination. "It's clear your story is resonating, Maya. We need to build on this momentum." Vanessa nodded. "The investigation into the officer is still ongoing, but public pressure can make a difference. We need to keep this issue in the spotlight." Maya listened, her mind racing. "What do you need from me?" "We're organizing a town hall," Angela said. "It'll be a chance for community members to share their experiences and demand accountability from local officials. We'd like you to speak again." Maya hesitated, the memory of the forum still fresh. The experience had been empowering, but also exhausting. Yet, she couldn't ignore the impact it had made not just on herself, but on others. "I'll do it," she said finally. The weeks leading up to the town hall were a whirlwind of activity. Maya balanced her work at the hospital with her advocacy efforts, attending meetings, giving interviews, and connecting with others who shared her vision for change. Zoe, ever curious, often watched her mother prepare for these events. One evening, as Maya rehearsed her remarks in the living room, Zoe approached with her sketchpad. "Mommy, I made this for you," she said, holding up a drawing. Maya took the paper and felt tears prick her eyes. It was a picture of the two of them standing on a stage, surrounded by smiling faces. Above their heads, Zoe had written in bright, bold letters, "Mommy, my hero." "Thank you, Zoe," Maya said, pulling her daughter into a hug. "This is the best gift ever." The night of the town hall arrived, and the atmosphere was electric. The auditorium was packed with people, some holding signs, others wearing buttons that read, "Justice for All." Maya sat in the front row, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her notes. Angela opened the event with a passionate speech, setting the tone for the evening. One by one, community members took the stage to share their stories. Each account was a powerful reminder of the systemic issues they were fighting against. When it was Maya's turn, she walked to the podium, her heart pounding. She glanced at Zoe, who was sitting with Emma in the audience, and felt a surge of courage. "Good evening," Maya began, her voice steady. "My name is Dr. Maya Bennett, and I'm here tonight not just as a mother or a doctor, but as a member of this community, a community that deserves better." She recounted her story again, weaving in the experiences of those she had met along the way. She spoke of fear, resilience, and the power of solidarity. "We cannot change the past," she said, her voice rising, "but we can shape the future. We can demand accountability, advocate for fairness, and ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, is treated with dignity and respect." The audience erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the room. Maya stepped back from the podium, her chest heaving with a mix of relief and emotion. After the event, Maya was approached by local officials who had attended. One of them, a city council member named Eric Walker, expressed his support. "Dr. Bennett, your story is a wake-up call," he said. "I want to work with you and the community to create meaningful change. Let's start by reviewing our policies and training programs." Maya shook his hand, hope flickering in her chest. It was a small step, but it was progress. That night, as Maya and Zoe returned home, they sat together on the couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn. Zoe leaned her head against Maya's shoulder, her eyes drooping with sleep. "Mommy," she murmured, "you were so brave tonight." Maya kissed the top of her head. "I was brave because of you, Zoe. You're my inspiration." As Zoe drifted off, Maya stared out the window, the city lights twinkling in the distance. The fight was far from over, but she felt stronger than ever. With the support of her community, her family, and her newfound allies, she knew they were on the path to something better. For the first time, Maya allowed herself to believe that real change was possible. The days following the town hall were a blur of action. Maya found herself at the center of a growing movement, her story sparking conversations in community meetings, schools, and even among city officials. The local news had picked up the story, with headlines that read, "Doctors Fight for Justice Inspires Change." Maya watched the coverage cautiously. While the attention brought hope, it also made her uneasy. She knew how quickly public support could waver. Still, each new message of encouragement reminded her that she wasn't alone in this fight. One afternoon, Maya sat in her office at the hospital between appointments. A knock at the door pulled her from the patient chart she was reviewing. It was Vanessa, holding a folder and wearing her usual composed expression. "Got a minute?" Vanessa asked. "Always for you," Maya said, gesturing for her to sit. Vanessa placed the folder on Maya's desk and leaned forward. "The investigation into the officer has reached a critical point. The department has recommended disciplinary action, and the case is being reviewed by an independent oversight committee." Maya's breath caught. "Does that mean they're taking it seriously?" Vanessa nodded. "It's a step forward, but we can't let up. The committee's decision will likely depend on public pressure and how much accountability the department feels they're being held to." Maya frowned, her fingers tracing the edge of the desk. "What else can we do?" "I'm glad you asked," Vanessa said with a small smile. "Angela and I were discussing this earlier. We want to organize a rally, a peaceful one, before the committee makes their decision. It'll show them that the community is watching and demanding action." Maya hesitated. The thought of standing before another crowd, leading a rally this time, was daunting. But she knew the importance of keeping the momentum alive. "I'll do it," she said. The weeks leading up to the rally were filled with planning and outreach. Maya juggled her work at the hospital with late-night meetings and strategy sessions. Angela managed the logistics, while Vanessa worked to secure permits and media coverage. Maya took every opportunity to speak with community members, listening to their stories and encouraging them to join the effort. Zoe, ever curious, watched her mother with awe. One evening, as Maya worked on her speech at the kitchen table, Zoe climbed onto her lap, her small arms wrapping around her mother's neck. "Mommy, are you saving the day again?" Zoe asked. Maya laughed softly, kissing her daughter's cheek. "I'm trying, sweetheart." "You're my superhero," Zoe said, her voice filled with conviction. Maya hugged her tightly, the weight of her daughter's faith both humbling and empowering. The day of the rally dawned clear and bright. Maya stood on the steps of City Hall, looking out at the sea of people gathered before her. Signs waved in the air, their messages bold and unwavering. Justice for all, accountability now, and stand with Maya. Angela handed her a megaphone, her smile reassuring. "You've got this." Maya nodded, her heart pounding. She glanced at Zoe, who stood with Emma in the front row. Zoe waved excitedly, her wide grin giving Maya the courage she needed. "Good morning," Maya began, her voice amplified by the megaphone. The crowd quieted instantly. "I stand here today not just as a mother or a doctor, but as a member of this community, a community that deserves justice, fairness, and respect." She recounted her story again, weaving in the voices of others she had met throughout the journey. She spoke of fear, resilience, and hope. "This rally isn't just about one incident," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "It's about a system that must do better. It's about holding those in power accountable and ensuring that no one, no child, no parent, no person ever feels less than human. Together, we can create change." The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy palpable. Maya stepped back, her chest heaving with emotion. She had done what she set out to do. She had used her voice. After the rally, the atmosphere was electric. People approached Maya to thank her, to share their stories, and to express their support. One of them was Council Member Eric Walker, who had attended the rally. "Dr. Bennett, I've been inspired by your leadership," he said. "I want to work with you and the community to push for concrete reforms. It's time we put policies in place that reflect the values you've been advocating for." Maya shook his hand, hope flickering in her chest. "And thank you, Council Member. That means so much." "It's just the beginning," he said with a smile. That evening, Maya and Zoe sat together on their couch, exhaustion mingling with pride. Zoe had fallen asleep against Maya's side, her small hand clutching the edge of her superhero sketch. Maya stared out the window, the city lights twinkling in the distance. The rally had been a success, but she knew the road ahead was still long. Change wouldn't come overnight, and there would be setbacks along the way. But for the first time, she allowed herself to feel a sense of peace. She wasn't fighting alone. She had her community, her allies, and most importantly, her daughter. And with them by her side, she knew they could create a better future, one small step at a time. 3 months after the rally, Maya sat on the worn bench beneath the sprawling oak tree in her favorite park. The sun was warm, casting dappled light through the leaves. She watched as Zoe darted around the grassy field, laughing with a group of children. Zoe's curls bounced with each step, her joy infectious. For Maya, this moment of peace felt well-earned. The journey since the traffic stop had been grueling, but transformative. The Oversight Committee had reached a decision week earlier, recommending disciplinary action against the officer. While it wasn't a sweeping victory, it marked a significant step toward accountability. The local government had also launched a review of police training programs, spurred by the movement Maya had helped to ignite. More importantly, the community's energy hadn't waned. Inspired by Maya's story, Angela's group had grown, their efforts expanding into initiatives for community police dialogue and youth empowerment. Maya had remained deeply involved, balancing her advocacy work with her responsibilities at the hospital and at home. "Maya!" Emma's voice called out, drawing Maya from her thoughts. She turned to see Emma walking toward her, her dog Charlie trotting beside her. Emma waved, her face lighting up as she approached. "Enjoying the sunshine?" Emma asked, taking a seat beside her. "It's perfect," Maya replied, smiling. "And Zoe's having the time of her life." Emma chuckled, watching the children play. "She's a special kid. You've done an incredible job raising her, Maya." Maya's smile softened. "She's my reason for everything. I just want her to grow up in a world where she doesn't have to fight so hard to be seen." "You've already done so much to make that happen," Emma said, "and the rest of us are right here with you." As they talked, Angela arrived, carrying a picnic basket. She waved and set the basket on the bench. "I come bearing sandwiches and lemonade," she announced. Maya laughed. "You didn't have to do that." Angela shrugged. "Consider it a small token of appreciation. You've been at the heart of all this change, Maya. And the work you've done, it's inspiring." Maya looked down, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I couldn't have done it without all of you." Angela placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Change happens when people come together." The sound of Zoe's laughter drew their attention. She was standing by the pond with the other children, pointing at a group of ducks gliding across the water. One of the younger kids slipped, landing with a splash in the shallow edge. Maya instinctively rose, but before she could take a step, Zoe was there, helping the child to their feet. "That's your daughter," Emma said, a smile tugging at her lips. "Kindness runs in the family." Maya watched as Zoe led the child back to their group, her small hands steadying them. Her heart swelled with pride. Later, as the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting a golden hue across the park, Maya and Zoe packed up their things. Emma and Angela walked with them to the parking lot, their conversation light but meaningful. "I have a feeling you're not done yet, Maya," Angela said as they reached the car. Maya smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Probably not. There's still so much work to do." "And you'll do it," Angela said, "one step at a time, just like you've done all along." Maya nodded, the weight of the journey ahead tempered by the knowledge that she wasn't walking it alone. That night, back at home, Maya tucked Zoe into bed. Zoe held up her latest drawing, a picture of herself and Maya standing together beneath the oak tree. Above their heads were the words, "We're stronger together." Maya kissed her daughter's forehead, her voice soft. "We are, Zoe. We absolutely are." As Zoe drifted off to sleep, Maya sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. The fight for justice and accountability was far from over, but for the first time, Maya felt a deep, unshakable sense of hope. The small steps she had taken, filing the complaint, sharing her story, organizing with others, had led to meaningful change. And with each step, she had grown stronger, more certain of her purpose. In the quiet of the night, Maya allowed herself to dream of a brighter future, not just for Zoe, but for everyone. And as she closed her eyes, she carried with her the warmth of community, the power of resilience, and the unyielding belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could change the world. As Maya sat by the window that night, she thought about how far she had come. From that first harrowing traffic stop to becoming a voice for justice and unity, every step of her journey had been fueled by love, love for her daughter, love for her community, and love for the hope of a better future. She knew the fight wasn't over, but she also knew that the seeds of change had been planted. With each new story shared, each person inspired to act, the world was growing a little brighter, a little kinder. And Maya was ready to keep walking that path, one step at a time. Thank you for watching this story. If Maya's journey resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel for more stories that inspire and challenge perspectives. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder of the strength we find in resilience and community. Together, we can make a difference. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more powerful narratives.